Welcome to the Success Times Happiness podcast, a platform dedicated to engaging discussions with inspiring individuals aimed at nurturing personal development. I'm Richard Thompson, your host, a father, entrepreneur, world champion Ultraman, and passionate about all things high performance. Our mission is to empower both ourselves and you to unlocking our fullest potential, recognizing that this life is no dress rehearsal. While I may not have all the answers, this show serves as our collective journey to uncover them. Today, we sit down with Barry Wilkinson, a former professional soccer player turned mortgage broker and financial mentor. Barry's story is one of resilience and reinvention, moving from the competitive world of sports to building a thriving career in finance. With a deep commitment to helping everyday Australians navigate the complexities of property investment and financial literacy, Barry's passion for empowering others shines through. Expect to learn how Barry's experiences in professional soccer shaped his discipline, resilience, and team-first mentality in business, his practical strategies for improving financial literacy and managing mortgage stress in challenging economic times, and why surrounding yourself with like-minded and supportive individuals is the key to achieving long-term success. Let's dive into this. Cannot wait. How long have you been running it?
2004 is when I first started to become a mortgage broker after coming back from the UK, where I was living for a number of years. Started off with Suncorp as a mobile lender. And then...
What drew you to that?
I just needed money.
So you thought...
I just needed money.
But there's 1,000 other ways you could make money.
No. All honesty, like I came back completely broke from the UK.
Being a professional soccer player?
Well, attempting to, yeah. God, where do I start? So 2004 obviously started with Suncorp in the call centre.
No, take me back.
Take you back. Where to?
Welcome to the show, by the way, Barry
Thanks,
Wilkinson.
mate. Thank you. I'm privileged to be here because I just love the podcast. Do one myself, but I can see the benefit of having it for sure as a business.
So, from the mother country, professional soccer player, that was the dream?
That was the dream.
Not far away from it.
Well, when you've got a father that obviously reached the heights that he did as a son, the benchmark pretty high. So you do everything that you can to achieve that. Like boys.
Did you feel that pressure as you grew up, as a kid?
Well, you do. I think as a kid you don't really understand because you're just a kid, right? But I think as you get older, they say girls want to be loved. Boys just want to be accepted as they grow up. So looking at that, I just wanted to be accepted and just be as good as him. A lot of people say I was probably more talented than him. Well, I know I was, but he was just a lot harder and probably more disciplined. But he was just, he was a machine. Like he was just really, really good. So growing up with a father like that, who's now become my best mate, we've got so much in common purely from the football.
How do you reflect on that whole football chapter for you when you look back?
Probably the best experience in terms of mateship and how to best understand people.
Right.
And the ability to get back up off the canvas and go again, and the harshness of working as a team to achieve an ultimate goal. So the team that I grew up with in Brisbane and Queensland is that we were probably one of the most successful teams that the club's had in its history, and we're very tight to this day. So having that football kind of builds your discipline, camaraderie, challenges, and how to kind of overcome them together as a team. And individually as well. Discipline is probably the biggest thing. And I still have it to this day in many areas. Like you would know that being a sportsman, right? You give everything to that one cause. And someone once said to me as I got a little bit older, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. I wish I knew that a lot earlier back when I was younger. So
the harder you work, the luckier you get.
100%, I was listening to a podcast just before I came, and it was with a psychologist, and she was talking to this guy, and it was like, well, do you feel lucky? So, Richo, do you feel lucky as a person?
Very much so.
Okay, well, you don't have a victim mentality. So a lot more things will come your way.
Because of that outlook.
Because of that outlook. I know I'm lucky, and I firmly believe it, right? Yeah. So it's just interesting how it works, right? The perception of luck when people go, oh, my God, you're so lucky.
That really simplifies it, right? In terms of your approach of gratitude. Yeah, and or victim.
Yep, mentality.
Yeah.
And the victim mentality is that things don't really appear the same way as that someone that is lucky. So it's just not by chance. I think everyone's got a playing level field in terms of where you can actually strive to go financially or sport-wise. It's just someone that wants it a little bit more than others.
Mm.
So in terms of the football, so I came to the country. My father was a professional footballer. Finished his football career here in Australia. We immigrated. I was about 5. Went back to Scotland, back and forth for a while. Schooling was affected in a big way. Struggled at school a lot.
Do you remember having resistance as a young kid?
Not really.
Right.
No, not really.
Just
back and forth. And that really messed with my schooling, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Yeah, it was great. My father grew up around Italians all my life. A lot of my close friends were all Italian. I love the Italian values, family, friends, food. Tried to emulate that. So I went back to Scotland for 4 to 5 years to try and play the same level. And, mate, that was the biggest eye-opener of my life. When you leave a country to go to a different country, thinking that, I'd made a Queensland team here. I was asked was touted to train with the Socceroos, played against the young Socceroos. And then you go over there, then you realise that you're absolutely no one, right? Different culture, different weather. Back to Scotland, where I hadn't been since I was a kid. Mate, had about 4 or 5 years, plenty of doors shut in my face, plenty of opportunities. And had I probably just kept my head down and bum up, I probably would have had a lot more opportunities come my way. And then came back to Australia, was with the Strikers for a little bit in the National League, and then had to make a decision between me and someone else, and they picked someone else. Luckily, he went on to play for the Socceroos, and then ended up at the call centre at Suncorp, which I detested with a passion. So that's how I genuinely just needed money because I came back with nothing. I remember being in Singapore because I'd spent all my cash. Seen some phenomenal countries, been to about 22 countries around the world, right? So it was great, some great experiences. But I was in the airport in Singapore and I had to take rolls from the plane to feed myself. That's how bad it was, right? So, and then come back, and then, there's a few other stories which your listeners will listen to, and we'll talk about finance and the journey. But so sport, man, honestly, for anyone that's listening, and if you've got kids that are listening, it's the best way forward, in my opinion. That's how I learned a lot and how to deal with people to this day.
It's a wonderful, vehicle to have those lessons, almost not forced on you from a parent to a child, but by social and by mateship. But also the relationship you have with the coach is really critical. I was listening to another podcast about how kids need at least 2 other adult role models in their lives outside of their parents. And that's where the sport bit comes in. Because I can remember having wonderful male coaches growing up in cricket, soccer. You don't realise it at the time, but you're looking up to them.
Just the respect as well. Gives you that level of respect, right? And you take a little bit from every coach that you've got as well, right? But, where it's got me to today, it's obviously it was divine intervention, the big fella above, the law of attraction, the universe, whatever you want to call it. There's a reason for it. What's for you won't go past you, as my grandmother used to say.
Oh, I love that too. Yeah. And I think there is that element of, maybe it's that piece about gratitude or your relationship with luck is to, this year, talking to people who have suffered through some on the show, suffered some real adversity, some things that I don't think I could handle, but they've been able to manage through that, succeed and be ultimately really successful post, but they look back and can take gratitude of the fact that event occurred, but for that event, they wouldn't be the person they are now. But
you look at a lot of successful people in business, right? What have they all had?
Real adversity. Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
So I don't think...
But then it's hard, Barry. It's hard to get it when you're in the shit of it to go, I'm so thankful I'm here because I know that it's going to propel me somewhere forward in the future. You have no idea. But all the doors are closed. You have to have some hope. But your doors are shut. You got nowhere to go. You're at the Strikers. They've chosen someone else, and you're like, I've got no money, and I'm done with the sport. Like, do you think at that point you're like, I'm sure this is good. This is good, or are you like,
no? Look, I was 26 at the time, and it's not. It was probably more about the experience than my football kind of career. Like, was I talented? Many said that I was, but it was probably there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like myself. But it's not about. It wasn't about soccer, right? So it was about where I am today and how it got me there. So it was like life-changing kind of moments that you go, right, I'll go down the path of Suncorp, sitting at a call centre, 5 hours. Having a button, longer than that, 8 hours. And you're having a button when you can go to the toilet, when you don't go to the toilet, right? So they measure it. Mate, for someone that's got a little bit of ADHD, right, that ain't good.
Yeah.
Did that for a couple of years and then went into mobile lending into the bank.
Yeah.
And my first ever client appointment, I got a complaint. I had to go on what we call a top-up. So for any listeners out there, it's like you've got a home loan, you want to just increase it like 30 or 40 or 50 grand.
Right.
Now I'm sitting there nodding my head, just taking notes, not having a single idea. Now, go back to the football, right? I remember the day that I got my keys to the car at Suncorp was a guy called Leo Gauci, my boss, champion, little Maltese. Handed me the keys and goes, Barry, you'll either sink or swim. Okay, remember that moment. Go back to the football. Living 4 years in Scotland, having the door shut on you, having a little bit of success, door shut. All the football years of your mates, adversity, bang, you just get back up and got to go. Get that letter sent in. It was a little bit demoralising, but you just got to keep going again, right? And then I look at my father and the way I was brought up. I'm a very proud Scot, even though I don't speak it, unfortunately. My dad said to me, I will regret it, and he's very much correct. I can turn it on like a tap, which I might later on. But it was that kind of resilience, and that's what we've lost. I've got 2 young girls. That's what I want to build in them. Because you will learn a lot more from adversity, as we just mentioned before, and that failure. So why do I remember that complaint more than the first one I got approved? I can't tell you the first one I got approved, right? It was more a complaint.
Yeah.
So I think we've kind of stopped pushing that. Not everyone, but like even from a child's perspective, we need them to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You need them to fail. Yep. You know, it's kind of like you try and
encourage them to fail.
Yeah,
because that's where the growth is, right? So you need to reward the failure or reward the ability to get to the point of failure. Because otherwise, if you just sit on your hands, you're not pushing that envelope.
Well, there's no consequences living in the now, right? So I like my metaphors and quotes. So you know, like having that anyway. So then this is probably the real enjoyable part that I find in terms of what shaped me to today. The football, in terms of personality-wise, got a lot of mates, very, very close. We do dinners and we're mates forever. Like anyway, everyone gets it, right? You can't underestimate that. That is what you need as a human to make you happy as your outlet.
Connection.
There's a high suicide. 4 blokes kill themselves a week. Couple of women. Shouldn't be that way. Got to have that connection with people. So then I bought a mortgage franchise, and this is where it's going to get cool, right? Because I'm a young guy. Education was not my forte. Came into a working environment that I've just literally got myself into just by fortune, because I knew I was lucky, right? Intuitively, I know I'm a lucky guy, purely and simply because for anyone that, you know, from a human part, it's like when we get into an environment, my first thought process is to look for the goodness in someone. Then you will become likable. That is the key.
Love that.
That is the key. If you have that mantra, then things will just come your way. You're like, hey man, you're so lucky.
Open. No? You're open.
Open. Correct.
Coming with 2 palms open.
Correct.
Not scarcity or not closed off for sure.
So don't think that, you know, try not judge someone as probably sometimes to my detriment. But anyway, that's my first instinct straight away.
With the lucky piece as well. I remember doing some keynote a couple of years ago, and I went off a different tangent at the beginning. It was like inspiring young people or something. And it was like, if you Google the probability of being born.
Yeah.
Right?
I can imagine.
There is some enormous enormous number of zeros, like 1 in whatever that number is, the probability of being born.
Well, even just, you know, look how lucky are we, right? It's a society.
Yeah. But like, and then being born in this environment, this time of the world's history. But
there's also, I agree, but there's also so much opportunity now. It's the best time to be alive. And I firmly believe that. Financially, you know, we'll get into it in a sec. You know, so...
Sorry, you're digressing. You got your own mortgage franchise.
Got mortgage franchise 2004, 2005. This is probably the cool
20
part.
years ago.
Yeah. So 2004. Anyway, started my own business. I was at Suncorp, left Suncorp to follow someone else who started a mortgage franchise, got to 300 franchises Australia-wide. I was on the tools, got off the tools. I was traveling around Australia teaching others how to become mortgage brokers.
Got it.
Now, the ego was pretty big, right? Your ego is not your amigo. I'll tell your listeners that
another one.
There's another one, right? Whoever's mate, I'm going to come out with a couple, right?
Fantastic.
I'm going to leave the best one for last. Okay.
All right.
Travel around the country, mate. The ego, pretty big, right? Traveling, staying in decent places, driving nice cars, all that kind of stuff, right? Anyway, so in 2011, 2012, the franchise went into administration. I was still single at the time, up until 2010. I was young. I didn't want to settle down until I was around about 33, 34, right? Got a couple of sisters that were divorced and all that kind of stuff as a kid. So I saw that. Anyway, within that 2004 to 2011, I literally was out of control. On the piss.
Yeah.
Bit of recreational stuff. Bars.
Just out of control.
Sleeping with, whoever, right? Female. But, you kind of just fucking, it's mental. Anyway, so and met my wife and then franchise. My wife got pregnant, my daughter, first job, bang, administration. Anyone that's been into administration or a company goes into administration, it is hell on earth because everything finishes. I was in Cairns at the time, came back from Cairns. It was an end of season football trip, got the phone call, a company called Refund Home Loans went into administration. All the trails, as a mortgage broker, you get paid trail for when you do a transaction. Now, the key is to keep hold of that trail to keep the client happy. That whole stuff got frozen, everything gone, done. 9 months, I was in administration. I remember going to the Breaky Creek with a bunch of my mates. I got on the soup. Had a few beers for $55. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. Now, other stuff I can't remember. But there was a lesson in it. Like we just spoke just before. When you're in the eye of the storm, you cannot see it or you don't know why. So for the listeners out there, understand it's a process. You have to go through it. And the other side, it will get better.
Yeah.
It will get better.
But
100%.
You got to endure it.
Got to go endure it. So what did I learn throughout that time? Number one, ego. It was the biggest ego check that I've ever had in my life. And I actually really loved it. To be honest with you, in a weird, really weird way. Like I'm talking
cathartic almost, huh?
Man, I was 5 days away from bankruptcy. 5. So, and I had my daughter was my first child. My wife was pregnant at the time. So you go to areas of the brain that you've never really been to, or you shut off.
Yeah.
Now you go back as a young child, coming to Australia, living with a father that was, your hero, going to a different country to try and be someone, to emulate your father. Didn't work, came back to Australia, didn't really reach the heights that, I could have in terms of Australian football. Got a job with the bank, bang, you're here now. Oh, mate. Now, again, go back. I struggled at school because we were flying back and forth quite a bit, very disruptive. Struggled with English, very good at math. For some reason, was good at math. Hence, that's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Mm-hmm. And everything else. Oh, God, okay, so what do? You got to start again. No word of a lie. I'll never forget the day. So there was a company came in and I helped in the negotiations. Cut a long story short, for about 4 or 5 years, I had to then join up with another group, amazing company called Resimac, amazing lender, amazing people, and then had to start again. And then in 2018, had to start effectively all over again, built the team to about 10 people now. Started again. What did you learn along the way? Everything that I've just mentioned. Adversity, you have to go through it. Because now, from where I am right now and what I've built, you got to go through it. Had I been gifted it straight away, Richo, mate, it would be completely different. So you look at the stats. Okay, now I'm probably getting right into it, right? So you look at the matrix that we find ourselves here now. And what I genuinely love, hand on heart, is helping the underdog, right? Because I can associate with it, right?
That's you, yeah.
That's me. Struggled. And then you're like, well, everything tells you got to go to university, you got to do this. No, mate. Look, my wife is a lot smarter than me, But monetary wise, I've probably experienced more adversity and understanding in terms of how money works. You've got to respect it.
Mm.
But it's a lot easier to make $10,000 than to save $10,000.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's a mindset. So going through all this stuff, changing the way that you think, getting rid of the old person going, hold on, that does not work. The ego is going to run you into a complete ditch.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had the cars, had the clothes, all that kind of stuff. It's all living on credit. So you look at the system now and I've built it back up, mate. I've probably, we on average would do now about 400 clients a year as a business.
Mm-hmm.
And how did I get there? Pure and simply because of the people that I surround myself with, because they aspire to be. That's the biggest thing. If you want to achieve success, and however it looks, whether it's money or travel, whatever it may be, then you need to surround yourself with like-minded people. So the system itself...
Was that an exercise of stock take and getting rid of people, or in terms of updating?
No, not at all. I actually got a great bunch of mates. Like being in sport, everyone wants their aspirations. Like we were very, very good. Like we had so much success around the country, but it's there with sportsmen. You want to win. It's more myself.
Sure.
It's more myself. Is this what you want? Is this what you want? Well, tell me the stat, Richo. Why is 2.2 million people in Australia only got investment properties? There's 13 to 14 million Australians working or full-time. Why? So as I was growing, I started to ask questions and understand the whole matrix and kind of, hold on, this is not right. Why did the lenders, tell me that. Tell me why. So, and another thing probably very pivotal was my family lost everything. My father lost everything. My mother and father lost everything.
What do you mean?
So when we came over, finished his football career, he's a qualified Sparky, bought a Mexican restaurant. That was a Mexican restaurant. He's a Sparky. What does he know?
The Scott Sparky.
And he's fluent in Italian.
Perfect.
My dad.
Buys a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. And buys a Mexican restaurant. Anyway, so it's not because he's not a silly man, far from it. It just didn't have a figure around him to probably guide him, and he didn't ask. So you look at it as a child, right? So my daughters, I work in the finance game. I've got my own business, right? You've built it back up to a couple of properties. You've got a couple of commercial properties. Why? Why does someone that struggled at school to read now got that? Right? Well, my father didn't have his father, because it was back in Scotland, or someone teach him. So you look at it, right, for your listeners right now, and this is probably what makes me so burning with a lot of passion inside. It's like, well, what values do you cherish as an individual, and what money do you spend on, Richo? What are the 3 things that you spend your money on personally? Now, it can't be mortgage, can't be bills, can't be paying wages of your staff. What do you pay money? What do you spend money on?
Coffee with my wife.
Okay, so coffee with your wife, yeah? You love your wife, so you spend money on your wife, which is understandable.
Does children expenses come?
Yeah, so you love it with your kids. What else?
That it.
Okay, so if you'd love cars,
I'm more focused about the incoming.
yeah.
My time is spent on the incoming, not the outgoings.
But we as individuals, right? So there's a correlation with where I'm going with it, right? So your values that you're teaching your kids are family, because that's clear. It's family, right? So you want to spend money on your family. Well, for a single person out there, or someone that's no kids, what do you say to them? It's not family. So why do you compare yourself? And this is the biggest problem that we have for the younger generation on social media and content. Why are we comparing ourselves to other people that we do not know? Right? Why? So Richo drives call it a 2024 Mustang. Well, that's because that's his value. Yeah. So that's okay.
Yeah,
man.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%, right? So, you look at it and you go, well, ask the question why. Why are we not educating ourselves in the finance sector in areas, and you do not need to be smart in terms of university degrees. I could 100%. The amount of people that I've helped, I would have helped maybe, I think it's close now to 2,800 people. I love to educate, pure and simply because the system is not going to help you to educate yourself. Let me rephrase that. The system is not going to tell you what you can do unless you surround yourself with the people that will educate you, or you get online and start finding out.
So is that the
what
biggest
it is.
takeaway, Barry, in the sense of people need to truly and I guess honestly sit down to themselves to understand what their values are and what they want to put their money towards, which obviously will grow, will change as you get older and different responsibilities or as they come and ebb and flow. And then surround yourself with mentors, people of influence in your circle that may be more advanced in that particular pursuit.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the problem is with this country, right? When people are successful, we want to knock them down, right? Get over that needs to change. Whereas in America, it's completely different, right? So to answer your question, yes. So from an age bracket, from 20 to 30, what are you doing in your age? Obviously meet someone, buy a house for your first house. From 30 to 40, probably start a family. From 40 to 50 to 60 and above. Yeah. So my suggestion for people that are listening is that you need to sit down or take one day out of the 365 days, 64 days a year and focus on your own finances. Find out where you want to go spiritually, financially, and family. Those are I don't see any other areas other than those three that bring people satisfaction because it's not money itself in the bank account. It's experiences, right? So
it's what it affords you.
Yeah, so and it's interesting, right? So I've got a couple of stats here, which is what I love my stats, right?
Love this homework.
I love my stats for some reason. So if you look at, say, well, the first home buyer now is 36 years of age.
Are you serious?
Yeah, mate. Whereas
on average,
we'll call it the average first home buyer in Australia is now 36 years of age.
Right.
Up from 27 in the 1990s. Crazy, right?
Crazy.
Another stat, which is amazing. The average, so like if you've got $1 million property, which essentially that's probably the average house, right? To avoid mortgage insurance is something that the banks has to take over the client to ensure that they are not out of pocket, which is one of the good things about our lending criteria. You need $200,000.
20%.
Yeah. Now 40% of people's incomes now are paying for the mortgage.
And wasn't stress like the definition of mortgage stress is 35 or 30?
40% of your income
is the definition of mortgage stress.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like what all these stats, interest rates now are at say 6 to 6. So if you have a $600,000 home loan, right, and the interest rates are say 6 to 7% now. In 2021, interest rates were roughly around about 2.5 to 3.
Yeah.
So you're looking at roughly a home loan over a 30-year term, just the interest component is about an extra $3,800 per month. You do the figures.
Yeah.
So you've got the interest rates are going higher. You've got the level of income going towards the mortgage that you're paying higher.
Yeah.
The average house is higher. You need a deposit that's higher. The bank of mum and dad is making up
huge component.
Yeah, they're probably our 10th biggest bank in this country. All jokes alike.
After the 4, it's the fifth biggest one maybe.
It's huge, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, where do you start? The mindset, it's go back to the mindset. People are told, oh my God, it's too difficult. No, it's not. The mindset needs to change.
Right.
You know, so it was interesting on the weekend, I heard an economist speak on Friday at our Carraggio, right? He said that in Brisbane and Queensland, it's becoming more attractive because 50% of the population don't live in the city. 50% of the population do live in the city. Whereas in Melbourne and Sydney, the bulk of the population live within a close proximity of the city.
Right.
So in terms of, you know, like if you go, for some of your listeners, I'm a Brisbane boy, but if you look at Cleveland or the Western Corridors, you can still buy things for $750, $800, $850 there, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And you can do it on the coast.
Yeah, it's Brisbane's a really geographically quite a wide radius.
Yeah. Look at Gympie, south side of Gympie. You can still get something there for $750.
Quite a nice place at $750.
100%.
And you're only half an hour from the beach.
So I think moving forward, Richo, I honestly believe that the mindset will have to change. However, for those people that have toured the world, you'll also see that the high density in capital cities in places like Tokyo, Sydney or New York. So that I think will start to change. I think people's mentality will have to change. Do I think prices will come back? Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do think they'll come back a little bit. Interest rates, I think we'll have maybe 2 cuts next year, no more than that. but it'll be interesting. And then obviously in 2026, we'll see where they go.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, mate, I'm jumping ahead.
No, I love it. I did task you with some key tips.
I did, yeah. I've got some awesome tips.
I think like I guess the calendar year ending and starting afresh is a wonderful opportunity for everyone to take stock. And like you said, to sit down with yourself and work out what you actually want to achieve. I think growing up and my own experience has always been, I've always wanted that financial security, however that's defined.
How does it look?
I don't know. As in...
So you said financial security, right? So I love these type of conversations, right? So how does it look to you? How does financial security look to you?
Not be worried.
About?
Paying the bills, I'd guess, as a definition, broadly.
Okay, but you pay the bills now?
Yeah, but I'm not the one on trial here.
All right.
I'm just saying broadly, my representation of my experience growing up, probably in a single, mum raised us by herself. Right? And she worked fucking hard as a full-time mum and dealing with 2 kids. So I think I looked at that and I was really so inspired and continue to be inspired by her work ethic. She's a PhD now, like crazy clever. But I motivated to ensure that I'm not in that place.
Did you have a relationship with your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've always been entrepreneurial. Always.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Ever since I was like 5. And I think most entrepreneurs, most founders, most entrepreneurs have that in them.
What would you say the top 3 attributes an entrepreneur will have?
The ability to bring people around you. Team, like to be able to
totally agree with that.
Bring the team. Your ability to manage risk. And I think I was actually speaking to Mum on the way to work this morning about risk and how I've can't handle putting money in the stock market because I don't have any control over how those businesses perform, right? I'm just a bystander.
Which is cool.
What?
Look, if you don't want to do that, that's fine.
No, it is fine, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I've tried, and I check every fucking hour. Like it's really unproductive.
Yeah.
That
is a bit unproductive.
Yeah.
Because was it the Wolf on Wall Street movie that put you up?
But I think the entrepreneurial bit is like, well, I have control of this. I can take this to the moon, and I think you've got to have that level of confidence.
See, it's interesting. I wish I'd started in the stock market earlier.
Yeah, but that's like everyone, right? You go, I wish I threw, I got a friend who bought BHP at like $15 or something. You're like, great, that's wonderful. You could have bought Bitcoin at $10,000 or $5,000. But that's a cool story. That's the fish that got away, right? I don't care for that.
Yeah.
I'd rather buy the boat and have a trawler business than tell someone that I once put a fishing line in and got a massive mackerel. That doesn't interest me.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Because I think that's how I rest that's how I go to sleep, because it's like, oh yeah, I can see how even
So you obviously like to make sure, say your actions equate to, you're like, okay, cool, I got it. I can be in control with what I'm doing, which will then lead me to where I need to be.
Yeah. And you can go, oh yeah, great. This like CBA, for instance, even at the start of this year, CBA was $100 a share and now it's back up to 150.
I remember.
So you go, cool. That's a 50% return, right?
Money's like a train, Richo. You got to move it. You got to.
Yeah. You got to always use it.
You do. Yeah. And I think it's either, for your listeners, for me, and this is the best quote. Ready for this one?
Here we go.
This is it.
This is what we're waiting for.
Money talks, wealth whispers. Cool, eh? Best one ever. Wish I had it. I could keep it. Now,
can we trademark that before you leave?
Actually, the lawyer, could we?
Yeah.
Money talks, wealth whispers.
Yeah.
So you will find out of everyone that I've done finance for, right, the wealthiest ones, if you define wealth by assets and physical stuff, all speak the same. Money talks, wealth whispers. Keep your lips shut. Don't tell too many people. With your own inner sanctum, 100%. Now, Richo, you don't like shares. Do the majority of people that I come across have money in shares? A portion. Do they have property? Yes. Right? Do they have a business? More than likely. But you've got the average punter going, hey, man, I'm PAYG. What can I do? Well, have you heard of a thing called debt recycling? No, what's that? What's an SMSF? What's that? How does it work? So we've got all this in front of us as individuals, but why do we not want to? And that's form of control, so you don't let the stock market, which is completely understandable. But yet other people do, right? Then you go, well, what is the definition of success? Well, success is having the time that you can do when you want with the money. That's for you. That's why we do what we do, right? But I get that, but probably personally, I love to educate. I want to leave you with a bit of education because the matrix is not going to allow you to do that. Go back to the 2.2 million Australians owning investment properties.
Yeah. And I think that's a fair bit. If there's anything that in my input on your tips for next year for everyone, which you haven't got to yet, but is to think the opposite of the norm. If the norm is not what you want to be, you need to think the opposite of them.
But also as well, like I remember having timeline of, like, go back to your sport. You were defined by time. Yeah?
Correct.
Me, I was defined by results.
Yeah.
So for me, I measure it by results. So this year we wanted to crack 380 clients. We did it. We wanted to crack a certain figure. We did it.
Yeah.
Now the whole team has to be on the board, right? As you well know, as a leader, everyone needs to see the vision. Everything's about communication and where we want to get to. So if you go back to an individual, how much do you, I could talk for ages on the whole finance thing. The biggest asset that people have got is their home loan, right? Or their house.
Yep.
I will ask people, number one, what's your interest rate? I don't know. Okay. Do you like paying tax? No, I hate the ATO. Oh, bloody banks want to charge me 50 cents to $3 for an ATM fee. Okay. Well, you can't even control your own stuff. How much have you paid off in the last 12 months on your home loan? Let's work on 10 grand. That's the average punter. Mate, that doesn't make sense. So I'm going to get to the tips in a sec, right? Discover what an SMSF is. Discover what is debt recycling. Discover how to buy an investment property. Discover what the ASX is. Discover super. Mate, it would blow your mind. I could give you 1,000 stories of the people that I deal with day to day that are paying ridiculous fees in their super. So for your listeners, number one, my tips would be reassess your budget for inflation. Discretionary and non-discretionary. That is imperative. Simplify. I'm a simple man. Trust me, I'm a simple man. Don't go having different bank accounts everywhere. Or if it does work for you, then make sure that those accounts are best utilised in terms of interest or offsetting your home loan. So reassess your budget. We're going to need it. Only going to get 2 more rate cuts. Inflation, do I think there's going to be coming down? Probably where we are at the moment, but I can't see too many more rate cuts coming. So you need to work through your discretionary and non-discretionary. There's that many apps that you can see where your money's going, but also at the same time, before I go to my second one, is you will see a common thread with your behaviour. Set off the conscious awareness of going, hold on, I need to stop doing that. Yeah? Why? The coffees. Well, you deserve the coffees, like my wife, get her a coffee every day. Well, something has to sacrifice for that, right? Strengthen your emergency funds.
That's number 2.
Number 2?
Yeah.
Number 3?
No, hang on. Talk to me about the strengthening your emergency funds. What are we expecting? What do you see? Because I think, and when I say shares, I'm all for it in the sense that the super, I haven't done the SMSF yet, so it's still, that's in the stock market, but it was just the control bit that I struggled with. But I do know that, I'll ask the question. Do you find people who are more focused on property have less liquefiable assets, or do they have more focus on the emergency fund?
That's a good question. I think they'll assess their budget. It's like a foundation of any building, right? The foundations need to be solid. So before you go down that path, they'll know that, hey, if interest rates get to a certain level, they will not put themselves into a position where they have no liquid cash.
So when you say strengthen your emergency fund?
I'm talking about having money for emergencies, like, you got a tooth.
Get that.
Right?
What percentage are we looking at? What's the sort of...
I would probably benchmark at least 10% of your wage to 5% of putting into an emergency fund.
5 to 10% of your take home. You want that that's not going to grow though, or you just
No, it's just an emergency. So your car shits itself, or you get it right. So the emergency funds are for that. Property, you'll still continue to pay your property off. Like, where would I put that? I'd probably put that into my home loan, right? If I have one. If I don't, I'd put it into a high interest saver because not every day you're going to hurt your tooth or whatever it may be, right? God forbid. So I'd strengthen my emergency funds for, petrol prices to continue up.
Mm.
Labor's coming back, which is cool, but you just want to have a bit of a buffer, right? You've got to have a bit of a buffer. Everyone should have a bit of a buffer somewhere, because it'll be an opportunity that comes up as well.
Correct.
Right? That you could probably invest in at the same time. This probably leads me to the next one. Take advantage of the high interest saving accounts, offset accounts. So people that don't have a mortgage, some really good kind of interest rates out there at the moment, like term deposits. Use that. Banks need that. But also there's people that have got mortgages, use your offset account or your redraw account.
Yeah.
Okay? Just, it's as simple as that. Money stays in that account, you're paying less interest to the bank.
And tax-free.
And tax-free on your owner occupied. If you do have an investment property, you can get an offset account as well. And invest, my fourth would be invest strategically. This is probably my favourite one.
Okay.
By that, I'm talking about, between the age of 30 and 40. Let's just say you got a young family, 2 young kids. Well, are you going to go and waste money on a share account or shares or invest into something to put your family at jeopardy? No, you're not. But strategically measure the risk that you've got if you lose it all. Are you going to be okay? Mm-hmm. If you're okay with that situation, then invest. But at the same time, I would firmly educate myself, sitting with a finance broker, financial planner, and my accountant, and analyse what's happening. Plus, I'd be doing a lot more reading myself. Between the age of 40 and 50, I'd be looking at, typically you find people that are doing SMSFs or buying a property and investment-wise. So strategically, it's like not just taking something from Google. Talk to friends and people that you go, hey, look, do you have an investment property? Do you have shares?
Yeah.
Do you have an SMSF? Pick their brain. People will generally go, yes, mate, I do.
Yeah.
No one's going to come out and go, oh, mate, I've got this. Do you want to know more about it? Right?
Yeah.
I remember many, many years ago, I did tiling for a small term.
Wow. Okay, you're a tiler.
I'm talking 8 months until I cut my leg, right? Pretty badly, and then I didn't do it. Didn't go back. My boss was Hungarian, champion guy. He hated shares. Why did he hate shares? Because he lost. Now you go back to the COVID. Afterpay was like $10. Now it's right. It's $100.
Sure.
So he would have been that guy that sold it in Afterpay.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my mindset. Oh, shares are terrible. Shares are terrible. 6 years ago, I cancelled my, got off social media. I was watching my girls in the pool. I'm going to learn more about shares. I went and learned more about shares. Yes, it works. If you're calculated and you're measured, not do anything stupid. So invest strategically. People that are looking at buying property, okay, well, would you go and buy in Townsville? Well, have a look at historically where you're buying. Is it near amenities? Is it near schools, right? So educate yourself, spend a bit of time. Did you know the average Australian spends more time organising their family holidays than they do on their own finances, Richo?
Yeah, right.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, does that not blow your mind?
No, that's probably, I wouldn't be, that doesn't surprise me. It's concerning, but it doesn't surprise me.
I can't believe it. Like, we'd rather be on social media, right? My fifth, explore passive income opportunities.
Okay. This is the bit about generating the income more
elsewhere.
Yeah.
The amount of people that I've got that are PAYG, got small businesses on the side, people that have invested into shares, people that have debt recycled, people that have just thought outside the box, started to do things online, advertise. Like my daughter, she's just started her own little bangle. She's 12.
Love that.
She started her own bangle business.
Love it.
So she's now selling bangles, right? $10 to help with Christmas things. Anyway, I'm going to the extreme, right?
Yeah.
But you need to. So moving forward, and you mentioned Bitcoin before.
Oh,
just throwing it out there. I'm not going to say invest into Bitcoin, but the landscape's changing.
Okay.
Watch the next 5 years. The whole landscape is changing. The whole monetary system as we know it, the whole fiat system, I'm going to be completely out there right now, it's changing. It is going to change absolutely everything that we know.
Right.
Watch this space in the next 5 years.
Barry, this has been great.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
So did I.
Now, before you go,
I was in the zone.
5 questions that I ask every guest, but I haven't prepped you for. So
we'll have to
get rid of short fire answers, like what comes up, all right? So channel yourself. What does success mean to you?
Time.
What does happiness mean to you?
Family.
What is one book you would recommend someone to read?
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
4 guests, living or dead, not friends or family, that you'd invite to dinner.
Donald Trump.
1.
The Pope.
2.
Jimmy Johnston, which was a footballer in Scotland.
3.
I'd have to say comedian. I love a good laugh. Ricky Gervais.
Ricky was on my list.
Mind you, he is an atheist, so I don't know how to go with the Pope. Yeah.
And then finally, a guest you would recommend, famous or not, or connected or not, that should come on the show.
I'm good friends with Phil DeBella.
Oh, yeah.
Mate of mine, started a business from scratch, sold it for $50 million. DeBella Coffee, for those who remember. Phil is a great guy.
Okay.
Phil is a really cool guy. He's on my board, and Phil will give you a lot of his time. Got his experience. He can talk.
Yeah.
But he's great to listen to.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right, good shout.
I remember he gave me the best bit of advice to put on staff. I was thinking about putting my first staff member on.
Right.
We're standing outside his coffee shop, having a smoke, right? Yeah. Which I wouldn't encourage anyone, and a coffee. I go, mate, I'm thinking about putting someone on. He goes, mate, just do it. You'll find it.
Yeah.
Now, how easy is that?
Yeah.
You know? But, mate, I'd love to have you on my podcast. Thank you so much for this. I actually have had fun. I've had fun.
Thank you, Barry. I really appreciate your time. Merry Christmas.
My hands, my heart.
I hope 2025 is prosperous for you, mate.
Oh, it will be. Fuck, 100%. SW Brokerage, mate. You want to get a crop of it. And Richard Thompson, fucking legal, mate. What a place. What a restaurant. What a place.
We're lucky.
We are lucky. Yes.
Thank you, mate. That was another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. Next time there's a change in interest rates, turn to the person next to you and let them know all about the show. It really means a lot. Until next time, peace.